Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Cataldi and I'm the National Stylist Trainer here at International Hair Goods. I'm joined by Jen Brooks, who is our Managing Director here at International Hair Goods, and our lovely model Chris.
We're here today to show you how to give your clients increased hair volume, increased scalp coverage, and increased hair density in the front, top, and crown areas of their head. And we're going to explain how to get certified in this method. The first thing we're going to talk about is our micropoint links.
So the micropoint links are a strand-by-strand hair addition that is meant to create a more subtle and natural change for your clients. This is what the links look like. They come pre-looped on a tube, and we are going to attach each one of these links to a single strand of hair, creating a grouping of 5 strands by adding additional 4 strands to their single growing hair strand. The micropoint links are one of the most healthy and natural ways to give your clients a hair addition without causing additional weight, tension, pulling, or creating additional damage for your client's existing growing hair.
So can you tell us a little bit what the hair is made out of and what makes it safe?
Absolutely. So our micropoint links are made of cyber hair, and our cyber hair is a premium created fiber that is heat resistant. So it is 4 times lighter than the human growing hair, which is part of what allows us to not cause additional damage to the client's growing hair. So we tie 4 additional strands to the existing growing strand, but it really doesn't add any additional weight to that single strand, where other synthetic fibers or extensions or even human hair additions are going to add too much weight and tension that it could cause additional damage to where those hairs are placed. Another fantastic thing about the cyber hair and the micropoint links is that we're able to place it in areas where other extension methods cannot be placed. So we're focusing on the front, the top, and the crown area, and that's actually a troublesome area for a lot of stylists who specialize in extensions because they become extremely visible, especially when somebody's hair is very fine in those areas.
Can you tell us a little bit about who the ideal client would be, and if we were to bring this solution into a salon, who our clients would be that we're looking for?
Yes, absolutely. So it's not so much about promoting the service and bringing new clients in. You can definitely do that, but a lot of the clients are already going to be your existing clients. It's more about really listening to what they've been telling you all along. So for example, if you have a client that's constantly asking for volume and they want to buy volumizing product, or they specifically have you style their hair in a manner to cover a thin spot that really bothers them. Those are the clients that are the perfect person for this solution already because they're looking for something that this is going to provide. It's going to provide instant volume. So instead of this client having to create volume, the micropoint links are going to give them the volume and then they can just do their style. Instead of having to part to the left or to the right to cover a thin spot, let's just give them the hair in that thin spot so they can just have the style that they want. And then once this service is already in your salon and people are looking for it, and they already are coming to you, they're going to be seeking the service. So you're already going to know those new clients are looking for that. At that point, the main thing you want to focus on is, do they have a realistic expectation that we can actually deliver? So this service is never going to give somebody hair that they never had. So it's really more about taking them back to before their hair loss began and getting them back to that comfortable stage that they were at before. And really, somebody's not going to turn around in the chair and be like, wow, I look like a completely different person. This isn't going to deliver that for that person. It's really going to allow that person to fit in with other people and not constantly be focusing on, oh my gosh, are they looking at this thin spot? Do I have to put something here to cover it up? It's really so they can just live their day-to-day life and be comfortable even though they have thin hair. And it's more of a subtle, natural change, not a big drastic thing that's going to make somebody look like a different person.
Perfect. So before we start tying more hair on Chris to show the process, you talk a little bit about the consultation that you had with her a little bit earlier today and what you learned from that and what you would recommend to her from that consultation.
Yes. So one of the first thing I asked Chris was her primary areas of concern. We do want to focus on the area that bothers her the most, but this service is really about a density match. So for example, Chris, can you lean forward just a little bit? we started tying right through here, and I don't want to tie so much here that it's going to make another area appear thin. So this is the area that was the most concerning for her. And then I went over with her that I do need to disperse and tie some more hair through some of these other sections to give that full density. So you're going to want to discuss the primary area of concern for your client, but then also give your professional recommendation that we also need to tie hair in some other areas as to not create a new thin spot. And then also we discussed if she's currently doing anything to be proactive about her thinning. For example, if she's using some kind of topical solution to slow down her loss, that's important for me to know because those topical solutions can cause an excess shedding phase. So she just started using a topical solution. I would postpone this time for about a month. And then we discuss her color match. Does she change her color drastically quite often? Because our cyber hair is going to stay true to the color that it is. It won't take a chemical service, but it will not also be negatively affected by a chemical service the way our human hair can. So all I really needed to know from her was if she plans to go blonde from her natural color or even darker. Those drastic changes could be a problem, but ideally this is going to disappear and blend perfectly into her own hair. And she mentioned to me that she frequently will get some highlights, just a couple, lighter pieces to give her some dimension, and this is going to incorporate right into that for her, and she can absolutely continue to do that for herself. So really digging deep about what she wants, what she likes, and I'm not here to tell her that she can or can't have something else like her highlights. I'm here to help enhance those other services that she already gets.
Perfect. So we're going to lay Chris down and show a little bit of what you've done already, and then tie some more hair to show the process.
Yes, let's get started. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a cape on you here. I'm going to spin you this way a little bit, okay, so you just sit comfortable. I'll do all the work.
All right.
And get stuck. There we go. Is that too tight? Is that comfortable?
Nope. Okay, it's good.
And then I'm also going to, Rebecca, can you give me that? Thanks. Wrap this around you here so you can be comfortable. Get your hair up here. Okay, I'm gonna lay you back. Okay, you comfortable there? I'm gonna lay you back just a little more. All right.
So before we start tying any more hair, can you show us a little bit and talk a little bit about what you've already done?
Yes, so her primary area of concern was right here, and then I want to disperse down her part just a little bit. That way this doesn't make this appear thinner. So this is the hair that I already tied prior. So her hair's here, these are all her new strands. And then at the end we'll go ahead and point cut these right into her bang. So what I'm going to do now is take a new section just behind where I already tied, and we're going to fill in about this inch and then an inch in width and about 2 inches in length down her part. Alright, so I'm going to apply this Velcro. The Velcro is to give me a nice clean parting so I can stay organized in her hair and be able to focus on those single strands that I had mentioned earlier.
So while you start tying on this, talk to us a little bit about Chris and why she is an ideal client for this service, because she's brand new to Micropoint. This is her first time getting this, first time talking about it. What makes her situation, makes her a good client for this and a good candidate for this?
Yes, so when I initially met Chris, this isn't something that I right away brought up to her. I was really listening to what she wanted and what she was expecting, because it sometimes can be difficult to talk about hair loss with your client, especially if they don't realize their hair is getting finer and thinner. Sometimes it takes a while for somebody to see scalp and really notice what's happening with them. So I didn't want to pinpoint it out to her until I was sure that this solution would be good for her. But the more we talked and the more we discussed her needs and her wants, this was really an area of focus for her in the amount of scalp that she did not like seeing. So it wasn't so much a hair need for her because she has really great, fantastic hair. She was seeing more scalp than she wanted. So for me, it was more scalp coverage for her and the volume aspect because her hair was starting to lay flatter. So those are 2 of the 3 things that we can deliver with MicroPoint. So that was a no-brainer. She was definitely somebody I would want to talk to about this.
In a typical appointment, you talked about this being kind of a subtle change and something that doesn't change them drastically, right? What's the most important thing you can do so that your client notices a difference when they walk out the door?
Okay, so for really pinpointing, like I mentioned to you guys, the area that I'm tying to, you don't want to tie so much hair in one spot to make another spot appear more thin. And then also you don't want to tie too little hair in too large of an area. So you really got to focus on smaller sections, smaller spots, and really place the correct amount of hair. And that's something we go into detail in our training pretty extensively as to how to customize a service for your client, how to choose how many strands they need to really make a noticeable difference because these are single strand hairs. So when you think the big picture, how much hair do I really need to add to make a noticeable difference? A little hair goes a long way with this service. Even just this tube is going to make quite a noticeable difference for her if I do the correct placement.
Perfect. So for someone in the early stages of hair loss, both male and female clients?
Both male and female. Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about a couple of frequently asked questions, things that we get often. We're happy to answer more of those questions, but want to try to hit all of those things that we know are common questions that are asked. So one of those is, why would you recommend MicroPoint Link service over other services?
So my favorite thing about the MicroPoint links is that it's safe and healthy for the hair. So a lot of other alternative hair methods on the market are going to cause additional damage. And really, if you know anything about hair loss, oftentimes your clients are afraid to even touch their hair, shampoo their hair, brush their hair regularly when they realize that they're starting to get finer and thinner. So taking the strides to do something about it can be really, really scary. I personally love this method because it's not going to cause additional damage to the client, but they can get some of that confidence back in a manner that's not, like I said, going to cause additional damage, but also there's minimal to no maintenance. So it's not something they're going to have to continuously be thinking about because typically when somebody starts losing their hair, sometimes that's all they think about. And they're super self-conscious about it. So I like for people to be able to just live their day-to-day life with minimal maintenance and know that this is here and it's making them feel better and they don't have to worry about it past the hair ad.
Next question is, how long do the links last after they are applied to the client's hair?
So it's going to be a client-by-client basis. It's typically 4 to 6 weeks. That's like your regular growth cycle. So it's going to naturally grow out with the client's own hair. There's no removal process because it naturally grows out. So if Chris's hair grows normal, she would return, which is about a half an inch a month-ish. She would return about 4 weeks to 6 weeks to get an additional hair add or a fill of her MicroPoint links.
So it's not removed?
It's not removed. It's going to naturally grow out or shed off of the hair. Or if you have the correct texture to where the hair strand is the same diameter all the way down to the ends, you're going to cut them out with their regular haircut.
And it's important to keep those knots at the scalp, right? Because as that hair is grown out, it's still attached. We're looking for scalp coverage, so keeping them close.
Yes, so once you do your initial hair add, that's what those follow-up appointments are for, because we want to keep as many strands as close to the scalp as possible, but also we can't stop the hair from growing, so we got to continuously add more each 4 to 6 weeks.
So how long does a typical service appointment take?
Your starting point is going to be about 3 hours, and then as you get to know your client and the areas you're going to tie to, you can definitely get faster than that. Or you could do shorter sessions. So you could do hour-long sessions and have them come in a couple different times. You're really going to be able to customize that part to suit yourself, your salon, your schedule, and your client. But your typical service is going to be about 3 hours.
And I think everything we've seen is that the more you practice, the faster you get. So That's part of it. And your clients change. Every client's hair is a little bit different. When Chris laid down for the first time and you started tying hair into her, you said, "Ooh, this is easy." The color makes a difference on how well you can see it, the density of her hair, the thickness of it, and how quickly and easily you're able to grab one strand are all factors in that. Can you talk a little bit about color services, chemical services, and how that works when those links are tied in, whether it's a color retouch or an overall color, and any limitations that come with those services?
Sure. So you can do color services, relaxer, perm, any chemical you would normally put on somebody's hair, you can put directly over the cyber hair, but you do want to take into consideration that the cyber hair will not accept the chemical reaction. So if you're looking to change the pigment of the cyber hair, it's not going to change. But it's also not going to be damaged by that chemical the way your human hair is damaged.
If you were to do a service, which would you do first? Color or a link application?
Ooh, that's a good question. So for that, you want to do your color first because we want the hair shaft to be in the most natural state that it can be when you do your hair ad. So for example, if I were to tie to Chris and then do her color, which is going to swell her hair shaft, it's almost like putting on jeans that don't fit you. Does that make sense?
We all know.
So we want the hair shaft to be in the most natural state. So you're going to do your damaging color service, which is going to affect the cuticle and affect the hair shaft, and then we're going to bring it back to the most natural state. That's when we would do our hair ad, is second. Ideally, you want to do it in two separate services if you can, but if it's not possible to do that, then you would want to do it the color first and the hair ad second. Now you guys will notice, since we're live, this hair actually, when I was ready to tie to it, literally came out in my hand. I barely touched her head. So that's going to indicate that this hair was already in the telogen phase and just ready to shed. And that's actually pretty normal for your services because those growth cycles are natural and they're going to continue to happen. So the fact that I just touched that hair and it was in my hand, that was a hair that was ready to shed already.
We talked a little before about cyber hair being a high heat created fiber. Talk a little bit about what that means from a maintenance standpoint, using heat and styling tools, things like that for your clients at home. In the salon also, but also at home.
So it is heat resistant. We have extensively tested the cyber hair and we have found that 350 degrees or less is our sweet spot for the cyber hair. And honestly, just for the health of the client's growing hair, especially because most people that are going to need this service already have hair that's not growing healthy. So staying in that realm of being a safe hair ad, you would also want to stay 350 degrees or less, even for their existing growing hair, and then also for the safety of your cyber hair as well.
So outside of heat and tools at home, is there anything the client needs to do from a maintenance perspective when they have the links tied into their hair?
The only maintenance, and that's the other thing that I really love about this, is the client can basically do whatever they want pretty freely without worrying about the maintenance. The only thing you really want to consider is how much sebum oil they naturally produce. Because in the areas where the hair is thin, that's where your sebum oil is going to start to build up. And the only thing they really might have to do is shampoo a little more frequently so that constant buildup of that sebum oil doesn't take place, because that oil could cause your links to slide. That's really the only maintenance they have to worry about. And honestly, you're going to be the one, you as a stylist, you're going to be the one monitoring that. So you want to ask, how frequently do you currently shampoo? Sometimes they're going to say once a week. Sometimes they're going to say every 2 weeks. Sometimes they're going to say, honestly, I'm really afraid to even touch my hair. So you want to really dig deep and find out how oily their hair actually gets, and then recommend how often they need to shampoo. And then you'll revisit that a month from now, and then recommend again, okay, so we're 4 weeks in, I noticed, some of your links had slid a little bit. I'm going to recommend that you shampoo a little bit more frequently to help keep them in place for a longer period of time. So that's really the only maintenance, is possibly shampooing a little more often.
So back to the links themselves. Can they add length to your client's hair?
No. Yes. No.
We don't say no very often. There aren't a lot of no's with it, but that is a no.
So our micro point lengths only come in 8 inches. 8 inches, and there's a couple reasons why. One, we want to stay under that 4 times lighter than the growing hair, so we can keep that healthy hair add aspect. So the only time you would be able to create length is like for Chris. We tied in her bang area here. So I have about 2.5 inches longer than her bang. So if I wanted to keep that longer, I could create length because we're tying to hair that's shorter than 8 inches. But typically, it's just going to blend naturally right into the hair. So the only time you can create length is if you're tying to hair shorter than what's on this tube.
Chris, we're coming to you with this one. One of the questions we get a lot is, what does this feel like for my client? So tell us what you are feeling right now.
Well, it doesn't hurt, but it feels like I have more hair, which makes sense. But I mean, it feels like I have, like it feels heavier in a good way on my head.
It's there.
It's there, yes.
And I think that's a common feeling. Sometimes those knots create a little bit of tightness because we are adding hair right at that scalp. It grows out and that lessens. I think for me, I get sleepy in the chair because it's very relaxing.
It's very relaxing.
And a lot of times all you feel is the pressure of Jess's finger as she pushes down and kind of holds that knot in place. But really positioning yourself and positioning your client so that you're in a comfortable setup so that everyone is at the right angle is what I'm trying to say is really important.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So you'll notice the way that I'm sitting, as hairdressers, we're conditioned and our muscle memory is to have our arms up. So when you're cutting or you're round brushing or you're wanding and you're curling, your arms are up. So with this service, you'll notice as I'm tying, my arms are staying down. Everything with this service goes down around the head. And when we asked when Chris mentioned that this doesn't hurt, unless you have a really, really tender-headed client, this should not hurt at all. So if you are hurting the client, that's your first indication that your arms are pulling up.
Sometimes we hear the question, is this a tedious process? And I always say I think the word intricate is more applicable. But from a stylist perspective, what do you think and how do you answer that question?
So honestly, when I first started learning this myself, long before training it, I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to be for me. It's too small. It's too detailed. It's just not going to be for me. It's not something I'm typically interested in. Like I don't sew, I don't crochet, like I don't do those things with your hands that are like small detailed work. But this honestly is kind of refreshing. Like as a hairdresser standing all day, having the break to sit and focus and talk and listen to music, it's really relaxing for me. It is tedious, yes. It is intricate, but in a really good way, I would say. I mean, for me personally, it is for me.
One of the most common questions we get is, how much does this product cost and how much do I charge my client for this? And it is a fantastic question that deserves an answer, but because we're on a public forum, we aren't going to answer that today. Please reach out to us if you're interested in any part of this. We would love to have those conversations and we'll answer those questions as quickly as we can for you, but want to make sure we take that offline and have that in a private conversation. With that, Jess, tell us a little bit about the certification and about our class and what that entails.
So we offer 2 different versions. We offer a virtual, which has proven to be very effective. And then we also offer in-person. Our in-person class is 1 day. Typically we do 9 to 5, but we can customize that. We can do whole salons. We can do single one-on-one. We offer in-person trainings here at International Hair Goods. And then the way that those virtuals look is you would do the online portion. There's an online portal and you go through that education and then you meet with me. The class is about 2 hours long. We do a follow-up. We go through all the stuff you already learned, and then there's a whole nother section that I go through with you. You're already prepared with the online part, and then we just elevate that even further with additional information. We make sure that you have a method that works for you for tying, and then you practice, and I partner with you for as long as you need to gain speed, accuracy, how to speak with your client, how to promote it to your clients. And then you're always welcome to join an in-person class as well if you start with the virtual.
Awesome. And both of those options, both the in-person and virtual, come with a kit of materials. So that gets you the colorings to choose color for the product, the tools that Jess is using to do this, startup supply of hair to use both for practice and then in consultations and potentially on clients. So it is a pretty substantial kit, and we can outline that more for you, but that is part of the certification. Certifying any barbershop or salon, as long as you have a hair-related business license, we would love to work with you. Our socials will be posted throughout all of this, so please reach out to us to get more information on that. If you have questions and want to discuss things further, we'd be happy to do that. But reach out to us one way or another. Call us, text us, reach out on socials, email, whatever works. Buying products. So MicroPoint Link is something that is only offered through International Hair Goods. It is our product, so buying those links and the hair comes directly through us. So you do both the certification through us and then buy the hair from us as well.
I would say lastly, like once the certification is complete and you are trained and ready to go and you're ready to start your clients, I do offer to partner with you if you want or if you need to go ahead and join your first service virtually, or just to be available if you have questions in time while you have that first client, just to kind of eliminate that nervous aspect of, oh my gosh, this is my first service. What if I have a question? What if I do something wrong? I do, as long as we pre-plan it, I can be available to you during that first service for your clients as well.
Awesome. I know you're almost done with that tube. Can we finish up that one and then sit Chris up and kind of show what you've done?
Yeah. Spin you a little bit more this way. So we made your marks when we did your consultation right through here. So this is where we initially started tying. So all this hair that's longer, this is all new, fresh hair.
Cool.
And then we went back to about here like we discussed. And I'm going to continue to tie right down this part. So the density that we created right here is also going to match here once we tie in that section.
Yeah, that's a lot. I can definitely tell the difference.
It's 500 new hair.
I know.
500 new
I
hairs.
know.
Chris is going to be hanging out with us all the time.
I know, this is great.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We were so thrilled to share this with you. We look forward to talking more with you. Reach out to us however you can. Our website is internationalhairgoods.com. But again, social media, email, text, call, whatever works for you. We can't wait to talk to you.